The main goal of this talk is to give feedback about how we use Croogo which is a CMS. It's a well-known CMS in the CakePHP community, and I just wanted to give feedbacks about how we used it to actually build business applications. So Croogo is a project that has been started by Fahad back in 2009. That was CakePHP 1.2.5, and since there were a lot of commits, a lot of contributors, and right now it's compatible with the latest stable CakePHP version. It's used as CMS on many websites, and the thing is that we wanted to use it as a basis for new features that are specific to our clients. Before starting, I wanted to know here who knew Croogo by name, at least, before that? Okay. Who actually used it once? Okay. And who still uses? Oh, nice. So there are a few people. Here is what made us at Oxitec starting using Croogo. A few years ago, we started to discuss with the team about ways we could improve our, we could leverage experience across clients because we are doing several customer clients. And we wanted to start reusing more and more our code and our plugins because we felt like we often ended up doing the same thing that were not really the core business of our clients. So we wanted to increase code reuse without wasting everything and being able to add features as we saw them and backport into other clients also if that was needed. At the time we had that's what I call the no solid user management syndrome. It's like in every application you deal somewhat with users. They have to log in, to have the password forgotten feature, the remember me, all that stuff. And we still hadn't built something or find something that allowed us to just drop in and if the client needed that, we just drop that and we had most of the features. And that was the same for dealing with categories, many other things. Also, in our team, we are a big fan of continuous improvement. So we are always trying new way to target problems, and with different projects, we couldn't, and it was a bit frustrating because we made we had new way to find solutions that we found more efficient, but when we come back on previous projects, it was not that easy to backport, and we had to spend times, and we wanted to have some kind of way to just do a git push, git pull, and know that we will not break everything, and so other clients could leverage the same experience. Also, there were at the time, so that was a few years back, there were composers that were very popular, and Twitter Bootstrap just came out, and we still hadn't applied them on our project. So at that time, we wanted to leverage also those new technologies, and also. We had many different projects, and for every project there was an admin area that was different, and we reinvented almost everything. And in the end, we just wanted to have efficient things, and not wanted to just try things for every client, and we felt like we wasted a lot of time on that. So we started to consider develop our own internal, our own CMS or basis, but we found the Croogo roadmap back then. So it was Croogo 1, 5, and 2. what I say was, we are rewriting the admin theme to use Twitter Bootstrap. We will integrate the migration plugin from CakeDC, and that was something that we were already doing. We want to pluginify everything because Croogo before the 1.5 was just a big application, and so they wanted to start doing small plugins. Also to create helpers to easily create the most used components, for instance, tabs, panel, accordions, all the Twitter Bootstrap stuff. And I also wanted to use Composer. So we decided to use Croogo for next projects, and instead of recreating something from scratch, just contribute to the project. So everything that's listed here is now in the Croogo. I mean, Croogo is just a lot of plugins that you can install with Composer. And there is an admin theme, which is with Twitter Bootstrap 2, not the latest one. So no, there will be code, and I'm not very dynamic, so I know you are asleep. And to change that, I'd like you to do something, because we are an event. At the end of the event, we're almost all tired, and I want you to stand up if you like the event, and you just move around to James and all the organizer, and you make a standing ovation if you like that. So. Well, and if you are on the streaming, you can also do a standing ovation, but, well, I don't care. Or you send tweets or things like that. So now, here's the serious thing. If you want to see what Croogo is right now, there is an online demonstration where you can play with it. You can also just do Composer create projects, Croogo app, and you will have a working Croogo application ready to start. Here is how it looks. So this is the admin area of a Croogo application. This is the content, so it's a content management system. So you can filter everything. For instance, here, it uses the CakeDC search plugin. Oh, that works fine. Yeah. These are the default values of Croogo. Actually, I did the wrong one. So publish page. If you want, you can edit them. So basically, there is a list view and a form view that's used for adding things or editing them. Here, you can have several tabs, many information with eWig. There is also a cool thing is that there are settings here. You can, for instance, the website, you can change almost everything. And then in your application, you can read it almost like you use the configure class. So anything that's currently in your configuration file can be edited from the administration with a few lines of code. That's very convenient. Well, there are almost everything that you can expect of a TMS. So we are going to see how you can do almost the same things for your features. Croogo is shipped with user management, user registration, forgotten password, remember me. You can manage pages, categories, so any kind of taxonomies actually. That means that if you have some kind of lists of something, I don't know, activities or hobbies or things like that, you can just create a taxonomy for that, and the administrator can change it whenever you want. So that's pretty convenient. And then it's associated to your other model, like any other model. You create an as n belongs to many or as many. There are also the settings, things to deal with ACL if you want to use them. They are enabled by default in the core when you install Croogo, but if you build business application, that was discussed yesterday, sometimes you don't need that. And we made the error to try to use the ACLs for a project that in fact really did not need that, and that was more a pain than anything else. So be careful with that. And also Croogo has things built in to install extension and themes. So I would say you should not use it if you just want to use a CMS. I mean, there are like 100 or more CMS out there that do really great job for that. I mean, WordPress has a huge community. The admin interface is really good to manage content. Croogo is still a small project, and you won't find that many stuff. However, if your application has some kind of content management, but this is not the core, it's really sufficient. I mean, you can edit everything, you can upload images, attachments, that's really enough. So you can just start with Croogo and then add everything you need above. And the thing is that you will add plugins. Croogo is just a set of plugins, and your business application has also different contexts or different parts, and you will create plugins for them. You will see that Croogo, in fact, has a lot of things that allows you to communicate between plugins without really depending on them, and that's what's really useful. I mean, that's what was really useful for us, and basically we just import Croogo in Composer and start working on our application. So the repositories are just our plugin, and this is really convenient. So you know how a CakePHP plugin works. So a Croogo plugin is the same, except that there are, so you see that there are migrations that can be executed automatically. A plugin JSON, which is just some metadata that are used for the admin area, and it also contains dependencies because there is some kind of dependency management. An events.php file in the config, we'll comment that later. An activation file also that I will show just after that, and some custom elements that will allow you, for instance, to hook a tab or some parts of the application. So, as I said earlier, Croogo will handle plugin lifecycle for you, and when a plugin is installed, you will have all those callbacks available to you if you want to, I don't know, to check precondition before activating your plugin. If you want to run things on activation, in fact, you can do almost everything you want. So here is a list of things that are usually achieved in the activation. You can migrate the database, create ACO, AEO if you need, and you can access models. So basically, you can save things, remove things, update, do anything you want. Event handlers. So that was the events.php file that I showed before. This is something this is a pattern that I think is really useful, even if you don't use Croogo. There is something that I call event spaghetti. It's like you just bind stuff at some moments, but there is for instance, a trap. Is that if you want to bind a model, for instance, that are implemented events, due to Cake lazy loading, sometimes your events will, your listener will not be binded. Having everything in one place is a clear message. It's like, okay, I'm a plugin. Here is how I communicate with the outside. Here are the events that will make things to me. It's also made things easier to test because you have the events.php file, that basically will just say there is an email event handler. Yeah, okay, sorry. This example is for a notifications plugin. Let's say that an application has a lot of events. I like to extract notifications in a plugin who just do that. So here you will see that there is an emails event handler. Basically, it will just send emails to people whenever an event occurs. So the config events.php that will be loaded by Croogo whenever the plugin is activated, as soon as it's installed, just contain something like that, and you say, okay, my event handlers are these classes. So Croogo will register them, and then it's a basic emails event handler. I mean, just something that has implemented events and that do stuff at that moment. That's it. So all the interactions are just in one place, and they are totally explicit. And this is classic CakePHP application. There is nothing specific to Croogo here. When you have a good design application, you have events, maybe domain events, and that's the best thing. But sometimes you will want to change a few things just directly in the code. And Croogo has really nice things that name hooks. You can, for instance, in the bootstrap.php file of your plugin, you can say, I want to hook a component on this controller, and I want to hook my component to this controller. Same thing for a behavior or a helper, for instance. So, for instance, with a component, you can basically change almost everything that is sent to the views. If you want to do anything, you can change model property or controller properties also. This is very, very useful if for instance, you want to add, I don't know, there is the user plugin in Croogo, you want to add a profile relationship to that. Hooks are totally here for that. There are also hooks for interface things. I mean, in Croogo, there is the menu on the left. It's totally, I mean, you can add anything you want thanks to Croogo Nav Add. You will see that the options is an array. This one is a bit complex. You can have any tree that you want, and you can customize things like the icon that is used. You has almost everything, the order of them. You can remove also menus. So that's very easy in a plugin. Also, on listing pages, there are actions. Basically, by default, it's just edit, delete. And you can add, for instance, this is in Croogo, in the pages. This is an action that duplicates, that allows to duplicate a row. You can do anything for users, block or enable or send email or anything. This is just by calling Croogo hook admin row action with a name, a title, and the URL. Same thing to add tabs to existing pages. For instance, here it's the taxonomy plugin managing tags, for instance, that add a tab to the content plugin. Also, on the right side of the form pages, you saw that there were some buttons, and basically there were some blocks. So it's named a box in Croogo, and you can add any box you want also. So if you do a module that's, I don't know, so the published and unpublished, for instance, which is just above, that could be externalized in a plugin, and you could hook it on everything. And then the action can call something in your plugin that will change the state of another model with something that you added in a behavior, for instance. So by hooking everything, you can do your whatever you want. That's very convenient. Also, in Croogo, there are some common views that allows the interface to be homogeneous. Well, yeah. And so it's in Croogo view common. There is an admin edit, for instance, that handles all the form views. So it uses CakePHP blocks that you're used to use. And so, for instance, here is just for a title. If your view has a title, so here is, for instance, in a payment plugin, an admin add action. So we say that it extends from the admin edit command view, and we just assign a title, and that's it. So it will go in the first condition, and otherwise Croogo try it tries to give you good default values. So here is, for instance, an admin form. Here are the different blocks. So there are the buttons on the right, which basically display also a save cancel, and the blocks that have been hooked, as I showed before. The title, so by default, is just shown on mobile views because the admin is responsive. There are actions. By default, they are empty, but you can add any actions to any kind of forms, or you can do everything if you want. And also, this is the main content. So by default, everything use what I show, but if it doesn't really apply to your situation, you can just throw everything away and use a view like you're used to. So this is for forms, and there are exactly the same thing for lists. So there is a title, there are actions. So here, for instance, create content, and a content with a list with search filters. So this is the default. And also paging area. So if you want to do something different for paging, you can. So basically, there are the common view. There are helpers where you can change also things, because helpers allow to generate some parts of the interface. And if you want just initially, and if you don't really want to optimize the admin area, Croogo defaults are sufficient. And for instance, in the listings, when there was the main content view, all the fields that are displayed in the columns can be changed with display fields. So you just have to pass to the view a display field. So I haven't documented everything, but it's basically an array with the field names, and you can pass also additional options that will be merged with it depends, but basically there is a class, and you can say a few things, and that are the data that will be displayed in the listing. There are also search fields for the filters at the top of the listings, so you can change almost everything that is searchable. And same thing for the forms. There is a view variable that's named edit fields, and from that, it will try to generate a form for you. So that's very, very convenient when you are prototyping, because you can focus on the business logic in the models, like validation rules, events, any real logic, and focus on the interface later if you want and if it's needed. At least for us, that was really interesting. However, this is Croogo. It's not perfect, because Croogo is a small project. I mean, there is a small community. So I said earlier that in 2009, Fahad created the project. Right now, he stepped out a little bit, and it's Rashman Shavik, who is also a CakePHP core member, I guess. Yeah. And so he is almost alone to really develop that. There are contributors, but there is really one person. There will always be one person really pushing things forward. So there is a small community. There are not many plugins. They are not all maintained anymore, and that's something that you must know. So if you want to use Croogo for your app, consider it more like the internal project that you didn't have to develop, and go deep in the code and contribute, because yeah, it's not like WordPress or Magento or anything else that you install. There is a community around that. Yeah, so there are not many documentation too, and it's not always up to date, because maintaining documentation is a lot of work, and since there are also always be one person, they prefer go in the code. So the best source of information is go and read the code. It's CakePHP code, and it's not that difficult. Also, there is an IRC channel and a Google group if you have any questions, and there is support like that. So also we discussed it before in previous talk. That's a project that has now 5 years, so there is technical depth inside. So feel free to contribute and do pull requests. So, by the way, recently Scrutinizer has been set up on the repository. So who knows Scrutinizer? Okay, so basically it's a tool that analyzes the code quality and show you what are the parts of the code that may have bugs, and also where there are code duplications, methods that are too long or things like that. So you can just go there, and you will see where are the pain points of the Croogo, and you also can contribute if you want. There will be bugs, so when you will try to do things, you will find bugs. But just do a pull request, and really, I mean, the people managing Croogo are very fast to answer, and that will be a pleasure for them. So Croogo is actually at 2.5 something version, and there is already a 3.0 branch. So the target of this branch is to move to CakePHP 3. There will have to be some refactorings and some rewrites, like for the model stack. It will also be the opportunity to move things out of some controllers, because there are plugins that have a lot of code in controllers. Basically, everything will. I mean, there will not be much backwards compatibility for the code, I think. So, if you want to go and try Croogo, I think that's the time to contribute. If your team is like ours a few years back, and that you are looking for a tool that you could reuse across projects to leverage your experience, maybe that's the time also to contribute instead of developing your own. And I think that if there are at least 2 or 3 other developers, really good thing can happen. So if you want to, you can go just on IRC, or you can go on the Google group and ask questions. And yeah, basically that's all. So now it's time for questions if you have. I can show also, well, no, afterwards, but if anyone needs more feedbacks, I can show a few applications that we've made. If you want to see real cases, that was not very easy to explain on the screen, because here, but I have them on my machine, so if you need, don't hesitate. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Concludes the conference for this year. So this is effectively the end, well, almost the end of CakeFest 2014. I'm going to ask that everybody, when they leave the room, there's like a doodle thing there that people have been drawing on. If everybody could sign before they leave the room, and when you leave the room, if you could go outside. We can't express anymore, how grateful we are for the support you've shown. All of you coming out like this, showing how you're really behind CakePHP, showing your support for the project. It really means, it really means a lot for us, because this is hard. We put a lot of effort into the project. There's a lot of people who put a lot of faith behind CakePHP. There's companies which are vying for CakePHP. They build a lot of projects on the framework. So it's really important for us that when you show face like this, and we've got such a huge community, and you come out in this kind of support, it's really, really important. So thank you, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts for coming out. Thank you.